Bergkamp. Perez. Wilco makes a run ahead of it. Bergkamp suddenly changed pace through the centre. It's Bergkamp! That's magnificent! The move, and then this, which left Dabi's ass totally stranded.
Hello and welcome to a Bergkamp Wonderland and an Arsenal podcast. I am here with Danny and we've got a guest as well with us, but we're going to be looking back at the season, which was probably one of the most positive seasons in a very, very long time, and we've got probably one of the most incredible transfer summers coming up as well. So we're going to briefly go all over the sort of last games of the season. You know, the last game of the season, actually, to be more precise. Favorite player of the season, overall rating of the season, but then push on and see how things are going to look for next season with who's going to be coming and who's going to be leaving. But I will mention that this was recorded on the 20th. So this is kind of different to our normal stuff with a live. But we just wanted to record this, so we've got some stuff in the background. But anyway, Danny, how are you?
I am fine. I might die during the show because I just had a tin of mushroom soup. The use-by date was 2021.
That's it. All right, cool, fine.
What a
Danny,
way to go.
Well, you know, it is what you were a fun guy.
How rude.
Apologies. So we've got a guest with us today. Howard, how are you? How are you, buddy? You okay, doing okay?
Yeah, mate, I'm well. I'm struggling a little bit with this humidity. I won't lie to you.
Yeah, the humidity today was ridiculous.
Kind of wipes me out, but I'm happy. I'm looking forward to the season. And just to introduce myself, my first Arsenal game was 1978. I was a fan before that, probably a bit young to go before that. And I've been a regular most seasons. I've had one or two seasons where, for whatever reason, I could only get to a handful of games. And I do a website called Boxing Predict. I'll just move to the side. Boxing Predict, and on social media, it's the simplest handle. It's at Boxing Predict, and basically, I predict boxing matches. You'll get a between 2 and 6 minute video of me predicting a fight. And so for us, it's a little bit quieter in the summer, but there's a huge fight coming up. That's going to be the fight I've most looked forward to since starting this website 2 years ago. It's Errol Spence versus Terence Crawford. It's the undisputed welterweight championship of the world, and it decides in, I think, 99.9% of people's minds, the best boxer in the world currently. So that's something to look forward to.
There we go, guys. If you're interested in boxing, then that's the place to go, 100%. Okay, yeah, so let's we'll talk about the Arsenal, Howard. We'll talk. We won't talk about we'll talk about other things first, but I know you were at the final game of the season. It's always quite a special thing to do, isn't it? Especially when it's the last game of the season at home. You get to see the sort of the parade around the stadium and everything like that amongst everyone. It must have been quite an atmosphere. And it's always going to be quite nice to talk about it because not everybody is able to experience that particular occasion, especially live. But let's go over the season then. Great season overall. I know that me and Danny, we do all the post games and everything like that. So we live in the moment after the game is done. And it's always quite emotional. But this season was really nice because it was very rare that it was going to be a bad post game. 90% plus of the games were, that was nice. Well, that was fun to watch, which is really, really rare. But Howard, what did you make of the season overall in a nutshell, considering that if you said to people at the start of the season, top 4, people would bite your hand off it, but things changed and we finished in second place.
Well, if you want a nutshell, it's this phrase, so near, yet so far. We almost did it, but quite frankly, you know that phrase, a league of their own. City are in a league of their own. And when you saw them in the semi-final of the Champions League beat Real Madrid 4-0 and make them look basic, you just thought there's something different going on here. And I know they've got all the money in the world, and I know there's been allegations of cheating, and we'll see what happens. But a lot of it is down to Pep. Agreed. And, you know, if Pep leaves, they've got a hard job to follow, just like when Arsene left us, Alex Ferguson left Man U. One thing I just want to say, not to get out the way, but there are 4 names I want to mention about this season.
Okay.
right, that make it stand out regardless of the football on the pitch.
Okay, yeah, go for it.
Right, so we'll start on a sad note. 2 Arsenal legends died. Just before the season, we had Terry Neal, who's a legendary manager. For me, winning that FA Cup in '79 in the sunshine against Man U, the Liam Brady final. It's one of the greatest FA Cup finals, and that was under his auspices. And he's very much an Arsenal man. He had the sports bar in Holborn, and he always would talk up Arsenal, always on the radio, regular media guest. And then just, in the last few days after the season, John Hollins, who for me, again, obviously he played for Chelsea for a lot, but he was Arsenal captain. He's an Arsenal man, a gentleman, a great footballer, a tenacious man, and well thought of by everyone. And one of my childhood idols, to be honest. And 2 other names, just the last sad sort of thing, but with an upbeat bit. What a mad season that we saw an Arsenal player stabbed, Pablo Mari, in a supermarket.
Oh, yeah.
How mad is that? Well, he was on loan at the time, but thank God he made a recovery. And the other names to throw in, Ethan Nwaneri, the youngest ever player, let alone Arsenal player. Again, how mad was that he came on in the game, and then he's, been in the youth levels ever since. So that's an interesting thing. But I've got three things I think we could have done differently to make the season different. But I want to hear your thoughts first.
Yeah. What would I do? What would I do differently throughout the season?
If you were Arteta,
yep,
right, and you could rewind that season,
okay,
what would you have done differently? I'm not saying gone out and bought.
Yeah, sure. Tactical changes and personnel selections.
Yeah.
Sure. I think first and foremost, I think everybody maybe not everybody, but the vast majority of people would have maybe not played Saliba in that Europa League game. I know potentially a lot of people are saying, the issue could have crept up anyway, but we don't know that. That's hindsight. We don't know that. So that would probably be my first decision, would be not to do that with regards to Saliba. What else? Danny, can you think of one?
Making the most of ESR when he came back from injury, because that bloke, as we saw at the end of the previous season, he's got goals, he's got assists, he's got attacking everything, and he sat on the bench the entire time. And so many times Arteta had players on the bench, he didn't use them. And it's all well and good making Saka play back-to-back 38-game seasons, but not playing him every minute of every game. When we're 3-0 up against teams, take him off, rest him for upcoming games, and do that for the rest of the players, because those players were on their arse after 34 games, 33 games, and they were knackered, and their season was done, and they couldn't cope with it all. And so, needs to make more of his substitutions. And that's what he wants. But unless you're one of his favourites, you ain't getting on, no matter who's playing on the pitch. And even if someone's legs come off, go, no, you carry on. I'm not bringing on someone I don't trust. And he has got half a dozen first-team players he doesn't trust. But they're all going now, aren't they?
I've got another one. But before I say that one, does anyone know what happened? Does anyone remember how Tomiyasu got injured? Because I can't remember.
He was running, wasn't he? He running back to do a tackle, and then he overstretched himself, like one leg in front of him, and then that pulled his groin, I think it was, or his calf.
I would have said maybe not use him in a certain instance or whatever, but obviously we can't predict that. But having White instead of Holding, I think, could have stabilised things, and having Tomiyasu right back. But anyway, the third one would be not resting Saka. I know that kind of goes against what you're saying, Danny, but you know how much I rambled on about it for fucking ages. Resting Saka for that Leeds game where he got brought on with only 20 minutes left to play, and then he went on like a 5-game just piss poor performancing. Like he played up to like past 52, 53 games up until that point, consistent football in a row. Yeah, I know everyone was talking about burnout and stuff like that, but he was playing absolutely phenomenally. The moment we rested him for that Leeds game, and I know this is obviously hindsight, but this is what this is all about. We can use it. He got rested, got brought on 20 minutes for the final 20 minutes of the game, and then he was for 5-6 weeks. He was absolutely shocking, and I couldn't get out of my mind, what if Arteta just started him against Leeds and he just carried on that performance? Because he's a workhorse. The guy doesn't get tired. He doesn't get injured. It's nuts. So that would probably be my second one. What do you think, Howard? Which ones would you choose?
I hear you. I don't disagree. I just got two sort of ones that tie into what you say.
Mm-hmm.
The first one is, I've got a mate, and he shares this opinion. I'd have kept Maitland-Niles, and I'll tell you why. That guy can play at right back. Now, he's not a great player, but he's solid. And I can see why he would want to leave, and I can see why Arteta wants him to go. He's not quite as busy, as sharp as some of the others.
He's gone now. His contract's been...
When Tomiyasu got injured, and when Saliba got injured at the same time, we could have put Ben White in the middle at centre-back.
Yeah.
And I think that would have made a huge thing. And I don't think there'd be a huge drop-off with Maitland-Niles. I think he'd be all right. And that might just have got us over the line. And the second thing is just the guys that we brought in January. Not Kieran's one for the future for me, but Trossard and Jorginho. Can you imagine if we had them all season?
Especially Trossard.
Yeah,
I know Jorginho finished the season very well. Jorginho finished the season beautifully. He kept Partey out of the side.
Yeah.
And Partey ended the season really weakly. And that's the reason why Arsenal have basically said, Saudi Arabia, if you want to sign him, he's yours. Just come and chuck some money at us and we'll see what happens.
Hopefully.
Hopefully. And we said that at the end of the season, we said it'd be interesting to see if they move Partey on because of the super inconsistencies, the injury proneness, which is never happened before he stepped up at Arsenal. I think that's just unlucky from him. But yeah, Trossard, the guy got double digits on assists in half a season for Arsenal alone. Unbelievable player. And the guy performed probably his best football for Arsenal when he played as the striker, right? When Gabriel Jesus was out of the side. And he was just
absolutely tailor-made for the Jesus role.
Linking up the play so well, and that is the reason why I'm so invested and so excited by the potential look at Kai Havertz from Chelsea.
I don't understand this whole outcry on Twitter. But Havertz, if you watch him,
he's unreal.
He takes up the positions. He makes himself available.
Yeah.
He drops into that 9.5 that Van Persie used to go to.
Yeah.
And when he's wide, he plays really nice low crosses. Well, who's great at getting on the end of low crosses?
Exactly.
Jesus and Odegaard.
Yeah, I'm super excited at the potential of Havertz coming to Arsenal for the money that we can get him for as well. I think it's going to be absolutely mental. You've got to remember, guys, he still is the starting striker for Germany international. All right, so you've got to bear that in mind. The guy won the Champions League for Chelsea a couple of seasons. Was it last season? Yeah, last season. Not last season before. The guy is a phenomenal big game player, and if Arteta can get a tune out of Martin Odegaard after he was looked at as being one of the biggest wonder kids of the last decade, he's going to do the same for Havertz. No stress, no problems. But Howard, you're right. If we had Jorginho and I'm still blown away with the fact that Jorginho came out of nowhere, literally out of nowhere. Nobody knew about Jorginho. It just turned up one day. Even Cucurella, I remember watching an interview with him on the same day, and they had to release the news to him live on the camera, and they recorded his reaction. He was flabbergasted. He was like, wait, he's gone? Completely had no clue. Cucurella, wow, what a great season he has had. But yeah, you're right, Howard. Trossard was something else this season. Something else.
Didn't even cost much either, which is another amazing thing.
Yeah.
But him and Jorginho, neither of them really cost much, did they?
No,
considering
not at
the
all.
market at the moment.
Yeah, I'm really, really happy about that. But yeah, that's probably, who knows? But we don't know what was going to happen. It worked out for us financially with the Trossard and Jorginho deal, especially with Jorginho as well. It was only like 10 million with the potential for a couple more. And then it was a 1-year contract with a potential extra. So it was a very, very, short, no pressure, no stress about the potential of bringing other players in. We're linked to Rice, which is pretty much going to happen. We're just waiting for that to go through. Until West Ham accept it. And Lavia from Southampton, who's a fantastic looking player, very traditional defensive midfielder, which is what I think Arteta is looking to use. But what do you think then, Howard? Best player of the season? Maybe we can do like best player of the season quickly, and the best player that really shocked you. So the best player overall and the one that shocked you the most as well.
Right.
So Howard, go for it.
Best player overall was neck and neck for me between Saka and Odegaard. But I'm going to go with Saka, which is the opposite of what the Arsenal website, the fans poll. The reason I'm going for Saka is, although he did drop off at the end of the season, that guy played fast, powerful, inventive, creative team football whilst getting kicked to kingdom come.
Agreed.
And for that mental strength and tenacity at a young age, having had all the flack for the penalties, the season before and all the rest of it with England, that guy is just a don. And after the goal he scored last night, obviously people are watching this recorded, but last night England beat North Macedonia. We won 7-0. Saka scored a hat-trick. Now, the middle goal was like something Letizia used to do, where he's bouncing off his knee, off his chest, like Ian Wright against Everton in front, at Highbury, that amazing goal where he lobbed Neville Southall. Top draw. So for me, Saka, but with tremendous honours for Odegaard as well, who just battled and played some brilliant passing football.
Danny?
I'm not going
to say best player, and then we'll do best newcomer. Go on, Danny.
I'm not going to pick Saka because that's so obvious. And like Howard's just said, that's so I won't go down there. But I agree with him. He's magnificent. It's a toss-up for me between Ramsdale, just sheerly for the fact how much he winds the fans, the opposition fans up, and the magnificent saves that bloke is pulling out. He's 24. Is he 24 or 23? He's a baby when it comes to goalkeepers. Goalkeepers don't peak until they're 30. We've got 7 years of his arc until he reaches the top of his career. But I'm going to go for Odegaard because that bloke pulling all the strings in the middle is just amazing to watch. And with him and also Xhaka, those two in that midfield have been two of the most important players to turn the club around this season from last season. And it was an absolute joy to see Xhaka, who a lot of people hated. You and me stood by him. And I just love the passion that Xhaka has. And that's why I'm worried about Xhaka going, because it's been at the club so long, and are we going to get someone in to replace that kind of passion and that people know that if you go and kick our players, Xhaka's coming for you, which is, you don't really see much of that nowadays in top level football.
No, you definitely don't. You love the passion and the tenacity and everything like that. The guy is phenomenal. So I wasn't going to pick this particular person. I was going to pick him as the one that surprised me the most. But I think it's pretty obvious. I ranted about and raved about him. I don't want to go for the obvious ones, was Saka and Odegaard and Ramsdale and everything like that. I'm going to go for Xhaka because the guy, I was going to say this is the up and comer, but I've got a different one for that. But this guy was phenomenal. Arteta said at the start of the season, we need you to be playing this particular role, the left centre mid 8. We need you to be playing attacking through the channels with last-ditch runs into the box. And he dropped some weight, got fit, got stronger, and came back a different player. Unbelievable. Wenger said that Xhaka was not a defensive midfielder when we signed him back in 2016, even though he's pretty much exclusively deployed as such. And the amount of memes and videos that are sent out on internet and stuff like that about how poor he was at tracking back and making challenges and stuff like that. The guy, he is not the quickest guy in the place, but Jorginho proves that doesn't really matter. But Xhaka, for me, was probably my favourite player of the season. The guy literally took the role that we were desperately needing all these years, and he took it to the next level. And he's gracefully, I think, stepping aside, because I know that we're going to miss him, but he wants to allow Arsenal to take it to that. I feel anyway, he wants to take it to that next level. I think the guy has been phenomenal all season. I've loved him, his attitude and everything in between. The guy has been a breath of fresh air for the team. Everybody talks about Gabriel Jesus and Zinchenko kind of rejuvenating this side as well as Odegaard and everything like that. But I think Xhaka doing the role that he did allowed us to be able to be as creative and full-fronting as attacking as we have been. So I'm going to just go for something different, and I'm going to go for Granit Xhaka. And I hope he has a great time back in Germany at Bayer Leverkusen, and we'll see how he does. But we're going to get Rice in. I'm very happy about that. But Howard, who would you class as your best player, the best player that kind of surprised you and really went, oh wow, this is special?
Yeah, for me it's Reece Nelson, London lad. Been on the fringes. He's had a lot of injury problems, had some loan spells that didn't work out. I always like to see the young London lads come through. And I'm worried about him because we've seen other youth players at Arsenal, probably other clubs, I don't know, who've got mates who are in the life. Nelson knows some of the Spartans there and whatever. And you worry about these guys are going to drag them away from football into stuff they shouldn't be in.
Yeah.
And everything goes to pot, and that's it. And you don't hear about them again. Nelson's clearly got tremendous focus, strength, professionalism. And you know what? Well, we took a hammering against City away, but there was Nelson deep in midfield when he came on, battling, fighting. Do you know what I mean? If I've got the game wrong, I do apologise. Was it City or was it the Brighton game? If I get the game wrong, it's a few midday.
Yeah, I can't remember. There was a few.
There he was. It was one of those two horrible losses towards the end of the season. Yeah. Nelson battling. Obviously, the last minute winner, the Bournemouth winner, we'll know. But Nelson, for me, is a fantastic player. And he's shown that he can play wide in either position. He can play as a 10. He can play as an 8. So I want us to do everything we can to keep him.
Yeah, apparently he's going to pretty much sign a contract. There's pretty much one down on the table. We'll see what happens in that regard. Yeah, everyone talks about the Reece Nelson Bournemouth goal. Everyone's pretty much rating that as the goal of the season for Arsenal and everything, like in the hearts of the fans anyway. And I think they registered. Did you send me that one, Howard? They registered or did I send it to you? They registered
you sent it to me, but
I sent it to you. Yeah. So it went down as a on the Richter scale as a 1. So it registers as a mini earthquake. So we at the Emirates created a mini earthquake celebrating the goal, which won the game against Bournemouth at home 3-2 with that Reece Nelson absolute blinder.
So an earthquake and a squirrel.
That's it. Oh, yes.
How can you top that?
That's it. So, Danny, who would you say is your most surprising player of the season?
I'm going to go Eddie Nketiah for the 5 minutes that he was decent when Jesus first went out of that game against Man United. That's it.
Oh, yeah.
That's it. He scored 2 goals, wasn't it? We beat them 3-1, was it?
Yeah. I thought his second goal was offside, but no.
Because I could pick Xhaka, but I think I'm going to save that one for you because you might be picking that one. But yeah.
No, I've already picked Xhaka. I've already picked Xhaka for my best player overall for the season. I've not picked him for the one that's surprised me.
I'm going to go Eddie because I never thought he'd do a damn thing all season, and I was right for 95% of it. It's just that he ruined my prediction by being decent for 5 minutes, and then that's
what a 5 minutes they were against United as well. Fantastic stuff.
Journalists are tweeting today that Arsenal are willing to listen to offers for Eddie, so he's done.
Really?
Yeah.
Really? Okay. Okay. I'm interested at the idea of moving Eddie on and giving Balogun a season and seeing what we can do with him, and then make a decision.
In his second game for the USA, didn't he?
Yeah. So we need to give him a chance, and I wouldn't mind selling Eddie and giving Balogun that chance.
I want to say myself and Deke were. So it was July 2019. We went to see Barnet play an Arsenal select team.
Oh yeah, we did. Yeah,
and a youth team. It was kind of who was around and who was fit in that stage of pre-season.
Yeah.
Steve Bold was there. And it was at Barnet's ground. It was a boiling hot night. It was great. Big Stab was there. We had a few beers, and one player completely stood out on that game. He was scoring for fun. It was Balogun, and it wasn't just that when he had the ball, he was steely and to the point. It wasn't just that he had a strength and speed above the other kids. It was the fact that his off-the-ball running was first-team quality. And I said, whoa, look at this guy.
Yeah, he was the one who stood out all night. I completely forgot about that night. That night, Howard. That was a really nice evening. Watching the Arsenal and Balogun. He stood out. It was like a sore thumb style. He was unbelievable. He's had a fantastic season in France. He's selected USA as his nation, which I think is a very, very smart move for him. He walks into the first team. He's going to make absolute millions on endorsement deals and sponsorship deals and everything in between in America. He's going to be their number 9 and flagship
Nigeria.
striker.
I bet you he makes a few quid in Nigeria and all.
Oh, he's unbelievable. Such a smart move. It must be difficult not representing the club or the country, that you were born in, but if you can make a smart decision by that, and play for USA and have, he was born in USA, wasn't he? He was born in the USA. Yeah. Okay. Well, born in the USA. They made a song about it, for God's sake. So why not?
It'd be good for Arsenal to keep him from. I mean, how many people are going to start supporting Arsenal because of Eddie Nketiah at the club?
I completely agree with you.
And with Balogun being at the club, you've got and being the best goal scoring sensation America have had since Clint Dempsey or something like that.
Well,
He's
Landon
going to be
Donovan,
scoring loads of goals. Loads of Americans who might just be getting into football now that it's going to be they're having the World Cup over there. They're going to go, oh, our number one striker. Who does he play for? Arsenal. Oh, well, I'm going to buy the kits where we do so much to
poor Matt Turner.
Yeah. They do so much in the American tours. We keep going back. We've got American owners, and we've got the number one striker. And oddly, 3.5 Arsenal players played in that American game. Turner in goal. Trusty came on as a sub. Balogun started, and Munsa, ex-Arsenal player, started the game as well. It's 3.5 Arsenal players playing for the USA. Yeehaw!
I love it. Yeah, no, I'm really excited by that. So my surprising player of the season, which is someone that no one's mentioned thus far, which I'm a little bit surprised about, to be honest with you, and that's Benny Blanco. I think he was one of the best right backs in the league. You know, it was the toss up between Trippier. I'm trying to think who else. Who else was decent in the league for right back? I can't really think of anyone else.
Trent Arnold at times.
Yeah, but
not as a right back.
No, he plays as an inverted wing back and plays through the centre. He finished the season strongly there, but it took a while for him to get going. So Ben White for me, Benny Blanco was the surprising player of the season. We had issues at right back. Benny Blanco stepped up and did it beautifully. I know he's done it before a bit for Brighton and Leeds, but not to this extent where he played for an entire season at right back in a team that was challenging for the title for 93% of it. Unbelievable. The guy wasn't only doing the defensive work beautifully and doing really well in that regard, because it's always quite nice to have a centre back who can play the right back role because he's got the defensive qualities to be able to be switched on. But he also had the attacking quality. His assists this season, him linking up with Saka, was something that was.
There were so many times when I'd send a message to Steve during a game where it was like, watch this interplay between White and Saka and Odegaard. Watch that little connection. These three are on the same wavelength.
They gelled so quickly and so consistently. It was like White has been playing right back for years. It was fantastic to watch. So that's going to be my surprising player of the season, Ben White. The guy was fantastic. And if he didn't have issues with Southgate, like I do, can't stand the bloke, he'd probably be starting for England a lot more than Trippier, in my honest opinion. I think Trippier's a great player, and he's got the dead ball situation available to him. But White's got this attacking fluidity about him, which it would just rejuvenise the right back position. But Southgate likes traditional, very very traditional players, and that's the reason why he's going to keep Trippier in Pickford and Maguire, and so on so far anyway. But that's going to be Benny Blanco for me, 100%. So. Best game of the season. Let's just quickly jump in. Best game of the season, Howard. Best game of the season. Or favourite game of the season?
The Villa game, where we just went crazy and had the pitch to ourselves and scored all those goals. It was just exciting, expressive football. It was just a joy to watch. So that Villa game.
Okay. Danny?
It's going to be both games against Spurs. That's all I want from a season. Beating Spurs 3-1 at home was magnificent, and then going to their place when they've been all chirpy about it. And what did we beat them there? Was it 2-0?
Yep.
Yeah. So those two games, just for the fact that it is just playing the scum and beating them. But then you look at some of the other games that I really like. Enjoyed the Wolves last game of the season, just everyone playing. It just showed what happens to our players when they play and there's no pressure. They go out there and they entertain and play great football. I mean, the Chelsea wins were great as well. But yeah, it's going to have to be the two games against Spurs.
I would either go for the Liverpool game at home where we beat them 3-2, where it was like, something's happening here. What's going on? Something's happening. Like we've just beaten Liverpool, and we didn't realise that they were poor. This is going to be poor this season. At that point, we still thought, oh, this is Liverpool. This is Liverpool. The team that's been challenging City for the title for the last 2 or 3 years. So that game would stand out for me. But also the first game of the season, I know nobody mentions this, the Crystal Palace game. But that game, it was like something was different. Something was different. We don't normally win the opening game of the season. It's not something that Arsenal do. We don't win the opening game of the season. Zinchenko getting an assist in his opening game of the season. And Saliba, didn't he score in the first game of the season? Was it Saliba? I can't even remember.
Hold on. It was Martinelli and an own goal from their lot.
Oh, okay, fair enough. All right, well, Saliba scored a few games later, but it was just like something's different here. Something's completely different. We've unlocked a new level, and we comfortably win the game, and we just looks like we're about to start something. I mean, I had no clue we were going to go on with the season that we had, but something just tasted different in the air. I don't know what it was. It was a beautiful win with a game where Zinchenko, first game in the season, gets a beautiful assist for Martinelli. I remember it was a looping head. It was a training pitch corner where they played to Zinchenko in the back of the box, far wide, and he just basically just dinked the ball back in, and Martinelli was there. It was like, okay, that's been done on the training pitch. Something was different. Something clicked straight off the bat. And then the Liverpool game, as I said, where it felt like the momentum was starting to really build. For me, that's probably my favorite games of the season. So overall, then, Howard, what would you rate the season? Considering I said at the start, I think Arsenal fans would chew your arm off. You were given top 4 football back in the Champions League for the first time in since 2016. What would you rate as the overall season out of 10?
9.
Nice. It was. And a 10 would be winning the league.
10 would be winning the league, winning a trophy. 9.
Yeah. Wow, fantastic. Danny, what would you rate the season?
I would have a big red 9, and then I'd have it crossed out, and then an 8 put next to it with a little asterisk saying could do better, because it should have been a 9. But towards the end of the season, they fell apart and it became an 8. But
I don't even,
just makes you think for next season. Next season's going to be better than this season, and that is unbelievable to think about. That it's just you want the season to start now.
Yeah. No, I agree. I'm just excited about the transfer window. I can't. This transfer window is getting me so excited. I'm constantly refreshing Fabrizio Romano's
I'm
tweets.
like that.
Constantly.
Some summers, do you find some summers you're kind of not that interested at first? This summer I'm hyped up.
But they're also.
I took the liberty.
We'll talk about it. I'm going to quickly just mention my my rating and the reason why. That's all right. It's all right, Howard. It's all right. I'm going to say an 8.5. I know Danny said 8 and you said 9. I'm going to do 8.5 if Saliba was fit and finished the season. I don't care about us not winning the league, but I just think just once again, Arteta, he's a fantastic manager, incredible tactician, but his personnel selection can leave me wondering sometimes. And I feel like using Saliba in the situation that we did was, I think it was obviously detrimental in the end, but I think there could have been some changes there, that's for sure. And it's great that we're going in for players like Timber and stuff like that. We'll see what happens. But so Howard, we'll talk about the players that are leaving and the players that we're looking at and bringing in, because as I said, this is probably one of the most exciting transfer windows. And Arteta has said that he wants to make sure, or try to anyway, bring everybody in before July 16th, which is the USA tour. He wants them done as soon as possible, but latest July 16th, so they can go to America with them, everybody, and be, intermix and get that gelling going on, get the camaraderie. So, Howard, players leaving. Who have we? Yeah,
leaving.
Let's talk about that first.
Who I think has the potential to leave.
Yeah,
you never know what will happen.
Of course,
right?
Of course.
Pablo Mari, I think he has technically left.
He's technically left. He kept the team. I don't know who he went to. I know he went to Syria, but he kept the team up. The stipulation was if they don't get relegated, he signs, and they've stayed up.
6 million.
So that's a contractual thing.
That's a contractual thing.
Cedric Suarez. I don't think we'll see him play for Arsenal again.
Will we get any money for him though?
I don't know. I think increasingly in football, you're going to see a lot of contracts terminated.
Yes.
Clubs willing to save money on wages. I think this is just the way it's going to go with the high wages.
Agree.
And I think Suarez, I don't see a way back for him. I don't think he's at the level we're at. Next, we know Maitland-Niles is leaving. I think it's shame. I'd love to have seen him stay. Great guy to have on the bench, but he wants to start regularly, and I can understand that. So good luck.
His contract's been torn up. He's gone. He's completely
gone. Next is, I think Tierney goes. I think he'll feel he wants to start somewhere. He's good enough to start somewhere. He's not an inverted left back. He's got injury issues. I'd let him go. Really like the guy, but we've got to look at after Arsenal first, and he goes with full respect.
Yeah, I
Next
agree.
is Tavares. I don't think we'll ever see that guy again. I don't think he's good enough. He's got attributes. He's fast, he's powerful, he's strong. He's a nutter when he gets in the final third of the pitch, and he's a nutter in our third of the pitch. And I don't actually want to see him play.
He's got the chaos factor. It was like bringing on Yaya Sanogo. You don't know what he's going to do, but neither does Yaya Sanogo. He doesn't know what he's going to do either. He's kind of chaos.
The Segan thing. I just
yeah.
see that guy in an Arsenal.
So speaking of Tierney, then quickly, I'm on the same page. Danny knows that I'm on the same page as well with the Tierney situation. You know, I think it's probably best that we part ways with him. We'll make some money off him. He's probably going to maybe go to somewhere like Newcastle to see how much they stump up, because they're quite frugal with their money, even though they're the richest club in the world. They're building quite slowly and not just blowing up like what City did at the very beginning, where it took them a while to kind of settle the ship. A couple of seasons anyway. So we'll see what happens there. But Tavares, now, if we get rid of Tavares as well, then we've got no backup option for left back. I know that we can obviously pull from youth.
Yeah.
But I'm intrigued.
I'm going to come to that.
I'm intrigued.
Who's going? And then I got...
Okay. I'm intrigued by the prospect of maybe if there's no suitors for Tavares, we look at we'll see how he is for pre-season and then make a decision after that. Because I like his... I know what you're saying. I know what you're saying. I'm just thinking I would love to invest elsewhere in the team. If we can buy ourselves a decent, cheap left back, then great. But I'd rather invest elsewhere first and foremost before we make a decision about bringing in a backup left back, because he's going to need to be able to do the Zinchenko role. That's maybe not better than him, but he's going to need to be able to do the Zinchenko role. So we'll see what happens. But anyway, Howard, carry on.
Yeah, no. Then while we're with defence, I think it's time to say thank you very much, full respect, but Rob
Holdini.
As great as you are in the dressing room, you seem to be some kind of liaison between management and players.
Yeah.
You're respected, you guide people. He is not good enough for the standards we're setting ourselves. And I think it's time for him to go. I don't know where he goes. I don't even think he is a Premiership starter. I see that guy either in the Championship, Scotland, Portugal.
Interesting.
Next, I don't want to see Lokonga come back. I'm quite forthright with my opinions here. I don't think he's the quality of an Arsenal player. He's got some nice passes on him. I don't see it. I think Patino's leaving. I think that's pretty much on the cards. He wants regular football, great potential, buyback clause. That's the right idea.
Lokonga, Howard, just quickly. Lokonga, but I'd be very, very shocked if he doesn't go to Vincent Kompany's Burnley. Vincent Kompany knows him, Belgian. They were together in the international and was it international? I know they were Anderlecht. I know they were together at Anderlecht. He was the captain. Yeah. So they've already got some knowledge on him. So I'd be very, very shocked if Lokonga doesn't make his move over to newly promoted Burnley. We'll see what happens. But I'd be interested to see.
And two names that we've already discussed. So I'll let you guys say. But as much as I'd like to see Xhaka stay, he's doing the role that he always did for Switzerland, where he's the more creative player. It looks like he wants to go. You hear the family want to be elsewhere. And Balogun, who we've talked about, I'd like to see him stay, but you hear he wants to be the main man. And if he does, let's just get as much money as we can for him.
I completely agree. I would love to give Balogun a season, but if we're bringing in someone like Kai Havertz, who I'm, as I said, already really buzzed about, the idea of using someone like Balogun as opposed to someone like Kai Havertz, we already kind of see where Arteta's thought is going with the kind of players that he wants to utilize in that particular position. He obviously doesn't want to... I know that everybody says that that Pep Guardiola pretty much created the false nine strikerless formation, which has dominated English football for the last 5 years. But Arteta was very much there, and it's shown now over the last, definitely this year anyway, that Arteta wasn't just a guy that put out cones. I know that was a very common meme saying on Twitter this season, that Arteta wasn't a guy that just put out the cones every morning. He was something a little bit more important than that. And we're seeing that now more and more every single month this season. It was incredible to watch the development of Arteta. There was very little moments where I moaned about any real decisions he made, apart from maybe substitutions. But that's all in hindsight. You can't really blame him. at that particular moment, sometimes you think, oh, well, that's, a decision that he made and whatever it is, what it is. But I would say that Balogun is not going to have the biggest of chances because he wants to play with strikerless players. He wants to utilize the Martinelli, Saka wide positions as kind of like inverted forwards and interlink that way and dropping deep. I'm very excited with where he wants to go with this. But I would say the same, Howard. If we can try and get the most we can for Balogun, I think we do it. Danny, what do you think about any of those?
What players I'd want to get rid of?
Yeah. What players would you get rid of? Any new names to that list? Or
first one, Partey. You're not having a player at the peak of his career, just falling apart injury-wise, morale-wise. Plus, we've got that thing going on that we're not allowed to talk about.
Inconsistencies as well. He was super inconsistent. Nothing to do with injuries. He finished the season fit, but crap. Yeah. Real crap.
It looked like he had other things to worry about. And if these, if the Middle Eastern teams are throwing money at players that are kind of the end part of their career, then he can go, because he only cost us, what was it, 50 million, something like that.
Yep.
I can hopefully get that back again, because he's our second highest earner on 200 grand a week before all the new contracts.
Give that to Rice. To Rice. That's a straight swap right there.
Get rid of him. I want Eddie to go, because Eddie's never going to make.
Yeah, so that's who I was going to say. Eddie kind of reminds me of. Eddie reminds me of Rob Holding up front. It's not that they play this, but we're above that level now. Yeah. I liked Eddie Nketiah. I thought he was a decent player, and he finished, not last season, but the season before, he'd finished the season so well, and we tripped up at the final moment, but he needed to grasp the opportunities this season with Gabriel Jesus coming in. He needed to grasp every opportunity that came to him, especially wearing the number 14 shirt, getting the contract that he wanted. I think he's squandered his opportunities, and now that Arteta is going down a different route with how he wants his striker to play, and that is with Kai Havertz. So I would be interested to see how much money we could get for someone like Eddie Nketiah. He's English. He's still not featured for anyone at the highest international level, has he?
No.
He's the top scorer for England's under-21s, but I don't know how I feel. I've always said I don't know how I feel about that sort of award. It means that you've stayed around too long in the under-21s, especially when you look at games featured, not just goals scored. It means that he's not been able to make the step up. And we've always said that about Eddie Nketiah, a number of players, where it's like Mitrovic stepped up this season, but Mitrovic for me was always the player was like, he's too good for the Championship, but he's not quite good enough for the Premier League. But obviously he changed that this season, apart from obviously finishing the season with getting himself a red card in the most ridiculous of manners. But that's the attitude he is. He's like a Diego Costa type player. I would be interested to see where Eddie goes, if Eddie gets any suitors, and see what happens there.
Yeah. And I want Vieira to go out on loan somewhere.
Oh, Fabio Vieira. That's a great shout.
We aren't the club where he is going to sort out his career, bulk up, learn how to play in a league where you're not at one of the top two teams and everyone else is League One level of quality. And sure. We ain't got time. Maybe wait until January transfer window, give him some League Cup games, FA Cup games, early Champions League games. But he is not Premier League ready.
I don't even think that's enough for him. I think he needs I think he needs another full season. He only had one season at Porto. I think he needs a full season of football. I'd love for him to go to somewhere like Burnley. Something like that. That would be a great loan for me. Playing some great football. Companies playing some brilliant football at Burnley. I'd be very interested to see something like that. So I completely forgot about Fabio Vieira. It's interesting as well. Arteta really lost faith with him in the final months of the season. There was moments where he called upon him and he did step up and he did some great things. That goal he scored in September against Brentford, I was like, oh, what a goal. That's beautiful. And there was glimpses and moments where he showed off what he could do with some fantastic football. I was calling him the Portuguese Mesut Ozil. The vision that he has was just phenomenal with some of the balls he was trying to play off, but didn't end up working out for him in the end. And he finished the season really weakly with an injury, and he's trying to get back now to be able to play for the Portuguese under-21s. But have we got any other players that we can think that might be leaving the club apart from Partey and everyone else? I can't think of anyone else.
No, just Lokonga. and
Yeah.
and the other lad that you've already mentioned, Tavares.
Oh,
That's 3 players there that have done brilliant in their own leagues, but when they come here, they just really haven't done it.
We're not a club now. We've stepped up. We're not a club where, young players, and I think that's going to be a thing now, because we've been able to allow the youth doors towards the first team to be open for the last however long. But I think we've stepped up from that now. You really need to show something really special, like that Saka level of special, to be able to step anywhere near the first team now. We're going to need something really special. So let's talk about who we think might be joining the club then.
I've got a few names.
Go for it, Howard. Hit us with the names and we'll discuss each one.
I'm not gonna go into any depth on them, because what we know is from seeing many transfer windows in the social media era.
We do something
era before. You never really know who's talking to who, how serious anything is.
Sure.
Some of them are accurate, and some of them are just journalists trying to fill space, and some are misinformation, disinformation.
Sure. Agents bumping up the price of their
player.
Yeah,
and sometimes it is a deal that is going through, and there's a hiccup. What I think is, most fans agree we need 2 central midfielders, particularly if Xhaka and then Partey leave. So Declan Rice is the front runner. It's going to be a tough summer of negotiation with West Ham. We've had 2 bids rejected. I think we'll get it over the line. I would also look at 2 other names. We've mentioned Lavia from Southampton, definitely. I'd look at Onana from Everton.
Yeah.
That's my midfielders.
That's going to be an expensive one, though. That would be an expensive one. Yeah. I think that's like a Caicedo level of expensive.
I don't think it's that much. I think we could pick him up for around 50.
Really?
Yeah, I do.
I don't know. I think Everton will be stubborn. They don't need to sell. So I don't know.
Who knows? I don't know if. All right, I'll go through the positions, and then you can, I'll just whiz through these names because we don't really know. We know that we need cover for Ben White because Tomiyasu's injured a lot. So we've made a bid of 30 million today for Timber.
Yes.
So we're in for Timber clearly. Castagna's also been mentioned. And there's a guy who plays for Lazio, a Spanish guy called Gabriel. Have a look at him. Looks the part, can also play in midfield. Left back, if Tierney goes, we don't know, but if he goes, there's a guy called Kostic who plays for Juventus again, a fullback that can play in midfield. I'd like to have a look at him. And then at centre-back, we need more depth at centre-back. We need a centre-back. Kevin Danso there at Lens. I'd look at him. Up front, it looks like Havertz is the guy we're in for. So those are my thoughts.
So we'll go back. So we'll go to right back then. Timbers can play centre back, defensive midfielder, and right back for Ajax. He looks like a very promising young
Captain
player
as well, isn't he?
Captain as well. Unbelievable player. I tweeted out a couple of days ago. Was it yesterday? Maybe that it feels like Arteta. I love, and as do you, Danny, Football Manager. It feels like Arteta's playing Football Manager in real life right now, where he's signing Declan Rice, who's always linked to Arsenal on Football Manager, always the first recommended by the scouts when you first join the Arsenal. He's literally the first guy on the spreadsheet. Like, you open up and it's like, Declan Rice. You're like, can I just go to the team first and pick my tactics first, please? Declan Rice. It's like, all right, calm down. Lavia is a wonder kid playing for Southampton. They've been relegated, so we can maybe get them on a cheap. However, there is a clause in his contract until 2024 that he can get bought back by City for like 40 million. So that makes things very, very, very interesting. So we'll see what happens there. But Timber is another very promising wonder kid on Football Manager. It's just another young, promising player. But yeah, right back. So Timber, I'm intrigued by that. We'll see what happens. It's a guy that can offer cover at right centre back as well as at right back. So it kind of doesn't put any pressure on having need to first team football, because he's got 2 opportunities to get himself into the team there, and he'll get game time this season, especially with Champions League coming up this season, which I can't wait to see Champions League back at the Emirates. But Lavia is a traditional defensive midfielder. We'll see what happens there. Declan Rice, we've been speaking about it for a while now. The guy is destined to come. The City are interested. They're snooping around, but Declan Rice, he's just had a kid. He wants to stay in London, and he loves the project at Arsenal. He loves the Arsenal boys at the England training ground. He's best friends with Saka. He has a little good giggle with Ramsdale as well. So we'll see what happens. But Danny, any names jump out for you?
I don't take enough notice of other teams. I've been a Miami Dolphins fan for about 35 years. Couldn't name a single player. I could only name 2 ever: Mourinho and Robbie Williams, because I had his shirt, and that's it. So when I look at other teams, I just watch it to be entertained. So I do the opposite. I'll tell you players I don't want. I don't want Vlahovic from Juventus. I don't want Mason Mount. I don't want Maddison.
Mason Mount's going United.
I don't want Maddison. I don't want Tielemans.
Was Maddison and Barnes? They had a bid from Spurs for like 50 million for the both of them. That was an interesting deal. I've never seen anything like that. We'll just here's some money for 2 of them.
I don't want Castagna, whatever his name is.
Castagna's being linked. Yeah, Castagna's being linked as well. But he might probably go to Juventus now that we're going for Timber, so he's probably going to go to Juve, maybe.
Not a bad move.
Juventus
have just signed Adrius Milik from Marseille for I think 6 million. That just shows the gap in the difference between the Premier League, where they're bunging £100 million on players.
Yeah, well, Juve have had their own issues this season.
And Juve are building strongly for their run in the Europa Conference League, or whichever one they're going to, the Toto Cup or whatever they're going to be allowed to be in.
Beautiful stuff.
And then, so there's players that I don't want. And I'm not overly keen on this young man from Ajax. Never seen him play. We've had this before where we've been and bought the Vieira, who was was really good at Porto, and then Lokonga, who was the captain of Feyenoord. All these young players that were captains. I want players who are going to come in and do stuff, not wait a year to see whether they're going to do it or not. I think Arteta's had too many of those at the club already, and we don't want to end up in a situation where Wenger was, where he's bought all these really promising young players, and then after a while we realise we can't get rid of any of them, and let's wait for their contracts to expire. I want players that are going to go and start in the first team and push. I mean, if this bloke does come from Ajax, is he going to be fighting Ben White for right back right away? I don't think he would be.
No, I don't think he will be either. But Saliba came into the team quite young. I know we signed him for a few years before he actually got his first team appearance for Arsenal. Now he signed a new contract. We're very excited about that.
We're hoping this. Matt Turner either.
No, I'm not keen. I'm not keen on Matt Turner either. The guy can't play with his feet. Can't play with his feet.
Okonkwo, the elder, had a good loan at Red Bull in Austria. He went there, went straight in goal, and did really well. So I'd like to see him be the backup goalkeeper. He's a Haaland boy, and he's an absolute monster of a player. He's about 6'4", 6'5", and still growing. And his brother's at the club as well as a youth player. I think his brother's a goalkeeper too.
Well, I'm not off for that idea. The idea of Matt Turner being at the club just smells like we've just signed,
T-shirt.
USA's international starting goalkeeper. That's all that smells of.
And Trusty, another one that's never going to work out.
Yeah, I agree. I completely agree.
26.
See, if we're talking about it, I jotted down just a handful of youth names. What?
Oh yeah. I was just going to talk about Havertz very quickly. I was going to talk about Havertz if you had any other players. So before you mention the youth players, which is going to be a whole thing on its own. So Havertz, I'm really excited about the signing of Kai Havertz. I know I've mentioned this many times and I've tweeted out numerous times as well. But as you said, Howard, not a lot of people are excited about the idea of signing Kai Havertz. The guy has been one of the most sought-after players when he was at Bayer Leverkusen before Chelsea made the deal for him. We've seen players who are phenomenal players who have played for clubs and and performed badly, made a move and performed really, really well, depending on if you can get a tune out of them. For me personally, Havertz was always my favourite wonder kid on Football Manager for like 6, 7, 8 years. The guy was absolutely phenomenal. I always used to go for the guy. The guy's got everything. He's tall, he's strong, but he's also very quick and his defensive work off the ball is fantastic. Absolutely brilliant. He hasn't got the greatest record at Chelsea. He hasn't got many assists or goals.
Nobody does recently.
But that's exactly my point. Nobody's done well for Chelsea last season. And his numbers are going to take a little bit of a hit. But if anybody can get a tune out of Kai Havertz, it's going to be, Mikel Arteta. If Mikel Arteta wants Havertz playing in his side, I don't care what needs to be done. Just bring the player to the club. But I think Arteta's well within his rights now to basically say, listen, I'm taking Arsenal into a direction that's going to be a little unorthodox. And we've seen Man City do the similar thing, and they're both cut from the same cloth. And if we can play anything like City, and I'm not saying that City we're going to play like City or we should copy City, but if we can mimic anything that what they've done over the last 5-6 years and be competitive on every level for as long as they have, then I'm all for it. I think Arteta was he's basically stamping his mark on the Arsenal team with regards to Kai Havertz. He's very much putting the team in a direction where he's going, right, this is the kind of player I want. This is the direction I want to go. The idea of Kai Havertz dropping deep and Martinelli and Saka running in off him with his ability to carry the ball, hold the ball, and play the ball through to them all, I think it's going to be a very interesting season altogether.
When was the last time we had someone 6'4" up front who could do stuff? Giroud.
GQ Giroud, baby, my favorite.
French lamppost.
Love Giroud, but this is like a Giroud made love with. I think he could potentially become an assist king if Arteta wants him, like I think he does. He's going to turn him into an assist king. So like an Ozil made love to GQ Giroud, and we'll see what happens. That'd be a very interesting child. Beautiful facial figures, but the biggest eyes in the world. But yeah. So Howard, youth players, who are we looking at? Who do you think can make the step up? I'm
coming from the angle that I'm not Charles Watts. I'm not watching every youth game and taking notes. I've just got a few names just to bear in mind, right? And George Bird's the other guy. Respect to those guys for what they do. Right. Ethan Nwaneri, youngest ever player, youngest ever Arsenal player. Looked to me to be physically impressive for his age. Good off the ball movement. We haven't seen much of him, but you hear that every other club's trying to get him. So keep an eye on him. Who knows what's going on there? We've seen Rowe Walters on the bench. He's a right back who can play the ball out into midfield from if he can play in midfield as well. See what happens there. Looks like a loan move. Also warming up Bandera. And that guy is built like a tank. Whatever happens to him, he looks ready to play from a physical aspect. Let's keep an eye on him. Maybe a loan move. And then we had the strange business of Omari Hutchinson leaving. He went to Chelsea. He's this kid who's fantastic technique and audacity on the pitch. Wasn't happy with something at Arsenal. Went to Chelsea. He hasn't really featured there.
Nope.
Chelsea's a case in himself. But we've got another guy like that who seems to be happy at Arsenal. Charles Sago Jr. And check him out. The guy's got all the skill in the world. Whether he'll be strong enough, I don't know. It might be like Vieira, who's a bit too skinny. But check out his technique. Again, maybe there's a loan move coming up for him. A very exciting sort of midfielder come winger in Sago Jr.
Good.
Danny, you've got anyone that you can think of? I've got the youth team, so I recognise a few players I'm going to talk about. But can you think of anyone that maybe...
There's the ones that have been on the bench all season. That's something that it irked me a little bit. That these young players, the last game of the season against Wolves, Arteta didn't give them a run out and say, look, you've been on the bench 10, 12 times this season. It is your reward for it, like he did with Nwaneri, let him play to keep him happy so that he stays at the club. But I'm just on Conquo. I just think he is going to be a wonderful goalkeeper. I'm looking forward to seeing him play because he played. I think he played a couple of games in the tour last pre-season and didn't really look very good. But he also missed virtually an entire season. I asked George Bird about this and I said, why? And he said it was personal issues why he missed an entire season 3 seasons ago. So I think he's still catching up, but he's going to be a hell of a player, hopefully, and he'll be with us. But we've let quite a few players go. There was one that I always liked who was never really going to make it. It was 23, 24. There we go. And Nicolas Moller. He's been off to Scandinavia and had a couple of loans there. I think he was in the Dutch second division. He hasn't done it. George Lewis, the Visit Rwanda player. He never got to play a game and knew that was never going to work out. Completely pointless. Matt Smith, FA Cup winners medal. He's been let go. Tom Smith, the goalkeeper, spent most of his time on loan, conference or conference south teams. Just been rubbish. Well, better than goalkeeper than I am. But
I'm looking at a picture of him. He tough paper round, man.
He's quite skinny.
A tough paper round. Jesus.
Yeah. And like Zakor has gone and Joel Adeo's gone. And then a few others have gone whose name don't really mean anything to me. But yeah, it's just always sad when you see young players going, but it just shows that then we're not allowing them to hang around.
I think it's going to be harder than ever. I mentioned it already numerous times this pod, but I think it's going to be harder than ever for a young player to step up like what Saka has done to name the main one. We've got players like Rowe Walters. I know he featured on the bench numerous times, and there was rumours that he might be the guy. He might get a starting spot in the team at some point, but it didn't come to fruition. Another player, Kozia Dubry. There's lots of hype about him and everything around him. He looks like a very promising young player. He's got very good technical ability. Be interesting to see what he does. Maybe a big loan move might be something that he needs to just grow as a player. And one of those players that has done that is Norton-Cuffy, who was on loan at Coventry and featured in the playoff final, which must have been really difficult for him as they did not progress. And Luton Town is in the Premier League. Sorry about that, Blame, who's the Watford fan who jumps into the chat every now and again. He cannot stand Luton, but there we are. But yeah, Norton-Cuffy, that'd be interesting to see what happens to him. I don't see him. I think he had a decent enough season. His numbers looked all right. He had a few little moments. There is a highlight moment of that particular game where he got hacked down by about 2 or 3 Luton players, and he managed to stand strong and progress with the ball really well. But I don't see it being enough for him to make the step up to be anywhere near the team. Charlie Patino, we've already mentioned. It looks like he's going to be moving on. The guy was the hype figure of the youth team for like 2 or 3 seasons, and it looks like he's going to be moving on. He had a fairly decent season at Blackpool. Marcelo Flores, another player. I don't think he's going to make the step up. Mika Birith as well. Really a very tall, strong striker. I really liked Mika Birith. I'm pretty sure we signed him from Fulham. I can remember correctly.
Yes, he's very good.
Very good. I like him a lot. He's the kind of player that I like, the guy that can hold up the play at the top of the pitch. So I'm excited by, once again, Kai coming into the side. But yeah, apart from that, there's no one else that really, really leaps out at me.
One name.
Yeah, go on.
One name, Deep. A guy that's missed pretty much the whole season was Edwards, the striker.
Yeah, I was looking at Edwards.
Looking at injury, serious injury. We don't know when he's back. But let's see what happens with him this season. You kind of feel he'll have half a season at the club, half a season loan, and then they'll kind of sit down and work out what they're going to do with him next summer.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what happens. We've got Rekic as well, Omar Rekic. There's a few names here. Miguel Aziz, these names have been Tyrese, John-Jules. Jesus Christ, that name feel like it's been mentioned.
Yeah, you've got the brothers as well, the two Mohamed brothers.
Oh, yeah, of course. Yeah. They're very highly rated on FM.
Around things, but, we just don't know if they can make that jump. It's quite elite.
It's not even a jump anymore. It's like you need a pole vault. You need a pole vault now to be able to jump into the first team. Before, it was kind of like a hop, skip, and a jump. But now you need yourself one of those really long, bendy sticks to kind of throw yourself over, because that's how high the level is now. I love an analogy. But yeah, that's the level is very, very high now. So I really, if I'm honest with you, if I'm completely brutally honest, I cannot see one single youth player that I'm looking at right now that I think that could be anywhere near the team, even in like a backup capacity. Even as a backup capacity. So I don't know whether that
generation have already moved up.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know whether that says the youth team's not great at the moment with quality in the areas that we need them, or Arsenal's level, the first team level, has propelled us to the next level, which I think is probably
the more correct. It says that Arsenal's first team level have gone up.
Yeah, 100%. That's just wanted to clarify, but yeah, definitely. But yeah, what an incredible season, Howard. Absolute fantastic season. It's probably for me. I said it. Me and Danny, we do all the post games, and I've been saying it all season. It's a pleasure to watch football. It was a pleasure to watch football last season. It was enjoyable. It wasn't monotonous. It was you took it in and you came away from it and enjoyed the rest of your weekend. There was no moments from fever pitch where a bad game can ruin your week and you're down in the dumps and it doesn't feel like there's going to be any way out, and you're kind of out of breath from just feeling so just down and trodden from watching from watching Arsenal. And, I said many years ago that I wasn't going to allow Arsenal and football to grab me as hard as it done emotionally, because there was moments where I would allow, a bad fixture for Arsenal to really take over how I felt for that day or even for the next few days. It took me, it's like a hangover from bad games. But last season, it was a pleasure. And I said throughout every single post game, I said, enjoy the football right now that we're playing. Enjoy the moment, live in the moment, because everybody says, the good old days, you want to be remembered. You would love to be told about the good old days before the good old days finish. So I was constantly reminding people, listen, we're playing fantastic football right now. Enjoy it, embrace it. But Howard, what did you make of it? So as a whole then, great season, great summer coming up?
Yeah, just a joy to watch. The players enjoyed their football. We played tight football. We played football that's cutting edge, where we were making things happen on the pitch, tactically sharp, strategically sharp. The team believed they could win it. We came close to winning it. And with some clever transfers this summer, we do have a chance of winning it next season. It's not just the puncher's chance, boxing analogy. Whilst I'm convinced Man City are in a league of their own, we have a chance that goes beyond just taking a punt, and we just keep going forward.
Danny, final moments.
I forgot what I was going to say. What was the question? Final moments?
No, just like your final thoughts of the season and everything in between. Just so if you've got any final thoughts for the.
Hold on. It's in there. Yeah, make the most of this, because you don't know how long it's going to last. We've waited a decade to get to where we are now.
Yep.
So breathe it in, hold it, and exhale slowly.
Yeah, because, like you're tasting a wine, like you're wine tasting. Smell it, give it a good smell.
There are devious things afoot when it comes to football, as we've seen by the Saudi Arabian companies investing in Chelsea. Chelsea then letting all their players go to Saudi Arabia, massive wages and massive deals, and it looks like the cheating is going on, and the cheating's going to get away with it. Man City have been doing it for years. Chelsea are now going blatantly doing it, and Newcastle will probably look at that and go, well, we can do this as well. And then you might start to see the decline of Premier League football, because at the moment it is further apart from all the other leagues than any other league has been further from other leagues in history. The Italian leagues used to be way ahead of everybody. And I think probably now the Premier League has beaten the gap that they had above everybody, because the sheer amount of money that Premier League teams have got. They'll just go, we'll have him. We'll have the best players submitted, and we might not even use them. And it's sad to see where football can go. And so before it all implodes, just give it a little hug and tell it you love it.
Two final things then I want to mention, because there's one thing we didn't discuss, which I've just remembered. One player we didn't discuss, quite a significant player, the most expensive player up until this moment Arsenal have signed. He's going to be rejoining the Arsenal team. There's no suitors for his name. Where the hell is he going? His shirt number's gone to Trossard. Nicolas Pepe. What's going to happen to the man himself, the most expensive Arsenal player in history? Where is he going to go?
Isn't that amazing?
I can't believe it.
Man.
The thing is, he didn't even perform well on his loan. Where was he on loan? Lyon? No, Lille.
Nice.
I don't even know where he was.
I think it was Nice.
I have no idea. Nobody knows. Nobody knows where he was on loan. What's going to happen to the man himself?
Graham Souness, who, as a pundit, has a lot of time for Arsenal. And respects for him for swimming the channel for charity, by the way. Graham Souness said of Pepe, there's a player in there somewhere. And he's quite right. Moments of brilliance. Great.
Anything Deadpool. Yeah, Deadpool. That's kind of it.
Situations and some inspired little moves in the final third. But try getting any level of consistency out of him, and we saw none.
No chance. I'm just very intrigued to see what happens to him. He's on big wages. He's a big, he's a big name in European football, but he's got nobody interested. I've not heard any interest. I've not even heard his name being mentioned at the moment.
Saudi.
I don't know what's going to happen to him. But yeah, I found it quite interesting that none of us mentioned Nicolas Pepe with all the names that are leaving the club.
Man,
Couldn't
occur to me.
We've even got Marquinhos as well, who was on loan at Norwich and didn't really do much apart from the fact that they kept on saying how smiley he is. He's a very smiley guy.
I don't think we're going to sell
another
him.
loan.
I think
Another
it's
loan.
Too soon. Yeah, they've got to have a look at him. Another loan, yeah.
Another loan. One thing before we go then, Howard, I just wanted to ask, it's not every day you get to go to the final game of the season at the Emirates, and you got to experience that this season. I'm sure this isn't the first time. You got to experience the final game of the season with the little walk around on the pitch and everything like that?
Yeah, I'm lucky enough to have been to many last games of the season.
Nice. I just wanted to ask what it's like, because it's not like a lot of people, if not the majority of people, don't get to experience it in its as a whole. So apart from what you see on TV and the clips on Twitter, what is it like? What's the experience like? What do you go through, and what's that like? Just quickly.
Yeah, it depends on how you've done in the season.
Of course, relative.
Depends whether it's a celebration of winning something, doing well, or a poor season. But a few thoughts. Now, firstly, it's usually reasonably warm.
Yep.
Which is nice. There's something special about North London in the sun. Another thing is that this year we had a massive group of people on the pitch who were the first team players, the ladies' first team players, their families, a lot of the coaching staff and ground staff, walking around together, taking applause. They had a massive, Stuart, the club photographer, did an official photo. He got up on some steps. That to me, I've not seen that before. I'm not saying it's never happened, but I can't remember it to that extent. And I've got a phrase here: Arteta unity. We suffered through years of Wenger out. Let's not open that suitcase there, but years of Wenger out. We had 18 months of what I call Emery distance. Nice guy, a successful guy who's shown he's a good manager, but he didn't connect with the club.
He's done really well at Villa. Really well at Villa.
Unity. We've got unity, and that is unity of players, staff, fans, and club. And something that it was, if you like, rubber stamped by this song "North London Forever." It's properly called "The Angel" by Lewis Dunford. He's Linda Robson's, one of Linda Robson's kids. I didn't know that. Just realised that.
Yeah. She's in the video. The official video.
That's right. Now that song, obviously, it's about the area. It's the area the club is in. Yep. The club is surrounded by lots of different areas, but I think there's something very, very important here. And I could talk for hours, but I'm going to try and keep it tight. When the club moved stadium in 2006, we saw, on a greater extent than we've ever had, football tourists. We saw coaches pull up, 70 Japanese people get off, buy their merchandise, go to a game, go. What is their connection with the club? And I'm not saying it's a bad thing, because if we've been abroad, we've probably toured different stadiums and been to games.
I do it all the time, yeah.
Right. So not knocking it for what it is. But what I'm saying is the community around the ground, where you've got generations of fans who are not just fans. These are people who've known the players. They're people whose cousins are the players. They're people whose cousins work for the club, whether it's just selling tickets in the shop, a steward, selling food. Real generational connections, identity, giving the club its identity. It's coming from that character of North London. Hard but fair was the old Bertie Mee way. And that is us. And I think that song, the way it's sung at a ground, I was very sceptical at first. It was a little bit maudlin maybe. But when I heard it sung at the ground in that way, it fits. It's a post-game song, or it's a song in the last minutes of a game when you're winning, and it fits and it's emotional, and it sums up the journey we've been through, and hopefully are going to carry on and be very successful. Yeah,
it's a fantastic song. I'm a big fan of the song, Danny. I don't know about you. I'm a big fan of the
nonsense. It works. But it's rubbish.
Sure. I really
get
like
some Coldplay on the go, and I love those as well.
I like a little bit of Coldplay. But Howard, what's the what?
Get some Phil Collins. I love that as well.
I'm all up for that.
Not right.
Totally
for football,
up for that. I don't care. Play whatever. Howard, so what's it like being at the final game of the season then, with all the players walking around the pitch, and the families are all on there and stuff like that? Because a lot of the time, ITKs on Twitter and fans in general will always kind of get a jest of who's going to be leaving the club. Like Xhaka had a few moments where he was on his own, and he put his family aside and was like speaking, waving to the fans separately. But what's it like being there and living in that moment? What's it like?
I'm going to make, there's a conundrum out there.
Right.
We live in a world of social media where most players have got their own channel. The club puts out tons of footage, interviews, photos.
Yep.
We had an Amazon documentary series.
I think that unified the fans and the club and everything in between really well.
Let's not forget that as well. I mean, how mad is that? Yeah, you've got lots of books about Arsenal, but an Amazon documentary with a film in the dressing room and all that.
It was
how mad
awesome.
Is that?
I loved it.
Before the season. Yet, for all of those interactions, whatever you want to call it, it's all, if you like, virtual closeness. It's online. What we don't have these days is where players and fans go drinking together in certain pubs around the ground, in Southgate and that. Now, when you get that last game of the season, when they're doing that lap of honour, when they're on the pitch, there's a recognition to me, and I'm being a little bit rose-tinted, but there is a recognition.
Love it.
Human beings.
Yep.
Right? All this anger you get online and sometimes at the ground, it's nonsense. It's nonsense. These are human beings. They can have a bad day at the office. Do you know what I mean? And when you are walking around the pitch as a player and you're looking at fans and you're waving and you're clapping and the fans are doing the same, you're making eye contact. So recognition that, you know what? Maybe a player just remembers that a certain fan always sits in the same place. There's that guy who wears the black T-shirt. There's that guy with a certain hat. There's that woman who's got a certain scarf. There's that fan, and late Maria, who would, I'm sure all the players, they couldn't have, no one could avoid her. Right? So there's that recognition that there are certain things in certain sections of the stadium, and we're getting back to that, is what we lost from Highbury. So it is emotional. And you ask, just to sum it up about players leaving. You look for their reactions, you look for how they're interacting with their family and the fans. Who can forget 2006 at Highbury, the last ever game? We had Pires and Cole sat there after the game, looked around, you just knew. You knew they were off.
One more year we were chanting.
Yeah, but you knew they were off, and you had that feeling about Xhaka this time.
I thought so.
Feeling.
Yeah.
And KT as well, Tierney, you had that feeling from the way they were slightly... They had a kind of like a deep breath, as if that was my Arsenal time.
Yeah,
I'm
I thought
so. It in one more time, almost as a fan myself. That was my time here. And it's sad, but it's also new beginnings.
Yeah, I thought that as much. I thought as much. But what a fantastic experience, nonetheless, Howard, to be at the final game of the season. In the season that we had as well, I think it's an extra special one. And now that we've got the summer transfer window ahead, probably one of the most eagerly anticipated summer transfer windows an Arsenal fan is going to experience for a while. So I will say again, we've had a great season. I said constantly enjoy the moment. But I tell you what, enjoy this summer as well. This is going to be such a good summer. I'm really excited about it. Let's
enjoy the summer. Let's be really happy that we've got a couple of tournaments to watch. If you're missing your football, you've got the under-21s. Let's keep an eye on Emile. He's in that. We've got the women's tournament, of course, down under. So it's exciting. And I want to just bring in one thing before we wrap. If you've got a little bit of time on your hands, because we haven't got all the regular football, and there's a book you want to read. There's one book. It's called The End by Tom Watt. He played Lofty in EastEnders. The End. And if you're a fan who hasn't read that Arsenal book, I beg you to read it. Because what that book is, that is the book about the North Bank. And it's bite-sized. It's just quotes from current players, ex-players, famous fans, regular fans. Right? And if you want to understand how much we've missed that connection and how much it's coming back, read that book. It's an emotional read. And that's my little bit of, that's my heads up.
Love it. I love that. Danny, any final thoughts?
Well, if we're talking about books, go and find anything by Andy Kelly and Mark Andrews, is it? Yeah, I think that's it. Or maybe swap their surnames around. Either way, we've had them on the pod a few times. They do proper Arsenal history. Not there's a book that a West Ham fan wrote about Arsenal and got so much of the history wrong. They've done 2, 3, 4 books. Darren Berry has done really good books. Our very own Jock, Dan Betts, he's done books. There's so many people out there that have done really good Arsenal books. But yeah, in the summer there's no football. Go and buy an Arsenal history book. And then if you want to tweet me, at the _GFP, and then I will tell you the books. In fact, I'll include the blokes in the tweets because their history books are fantastic. You learn a little bit about our history because we have got one of the greatest histories of any club, and we haven't bought it, unlike what some Spurs fans say, because they don't know anything.
No, they're fucked. It's so beautiful to watch how fucked they are. No European football, massively in debt, in need of a massive rebuild. Kane is they're just going to keep him there and shackled in chains, not winning anything. The only thing he wants to go for now is the leading goal scorer of the Premier League. That's the only thing.
Not a trophy, Harry. It's not a fucking trophy.
So it is what it is. But there we go. Fantastic, Howard. Thanks so much for popping on and giving us your 2 pence. It's super appreciated.
Thanks for having me on. It's been great. Just excited to be on here. Talking Arsenal, which is what I spend a lot of time doing anyway.
Yeah, that's why I thought it'd be a good idea bringing you on.
Especially for the Spence Crawford fight at the end of July. It's the last weekend in July. Please do, because that is the biggest boxing fight in the last decade. It's that big. It's that important. It's going to be that. It's like watching. If you can imagine 2 of the greatest football teams they've ever been. If you can imagine the current Man City team. Playing our Invincibles team.
Oh, right? Okay. So pretty big then.
That is what the analogy is for that boxing fight. And both have never lost. Imagine they're in the season. They're in the last game of the season. They've both not lost in the whole season. And that's the last game. That's what we're looking at in that fight. So really up for
pretty big stuff. Well, yeah, if you're interested in boxing, head over to boxingpredict.com. I've seen Howard's videos. He's very precise, very articulate. Go and check his stuff out. I've known Howard for years, and it was an honor to bring him onto the podcast with Danny, and we have a ramble about the Arsenal constantly. I'm always telling Howard to, maybe delay the messages by about a minute because I'm always watching the stream, and he's always either watching it live at the ground or watching it live on telly. And some people don't have the BT Sport, but there we are. That was an Arsenal podcast, a Bergkamp Wonderland, a look back at 2022-23 season, and a look forward to probably the best transfer window of an Arsenal fan that I can remember in a very, very long time. I can't wait for it. And a season that's going to be absolutely fantastic. So, as I say, enjoy the moments because this is a great time to be an Arsenal fan. Just enjoy it, embrace it, and up the Arsenal, Danny? Up the Arsenal.
Yes, indeed.
As soon as I scored that goal, I was fucking livid. Get down, dog. Splendid business.
He nearly caught the bloody thing. What are you talking about?
So I was just eating a full quiche. Well, you don't often see them at it. So when you see them in the supermarket, they need to be swagged, microwaved immediately, and get the brown sauce on and bosh, Bob's your uncle.
Never in doubt.